What's up, everyone? This is Niyi Adewale, host of the Akaba Home Financial Freedom Mastermind Group. This group meets virtually every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, and the members of this group are committed to achieving financial freedom well before the traditional retirement age. So in this podcast, you are going to get VIP access to the conversations we have about different forms of investment and creative ways to get your dollars working harder for you than you originally worked to obtain those dollars. Remi is joining us from Maryland, but that's not where he was a couple of days ago. Remi is a world traveler that has successfully made the transition from a W-2 to full-time entrepreneur and has learned a lot of lessons that we're going to dive into tonight along the way. And he's been able to successfully continue building his real estate portfolio and businesses while living across the world. So Remi, it's so awesome to have you here, man. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk with you and your audience.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one of the things that, we kind of relate to is growing up as the first generation born in the US, but in a Nigerian household. Would you mind sharing with me and the audience just how that upbringing helped to shape your thoughts around financial freedom and kind of the path to the American dream?
Well, my parents came for school and they didn't have a big network. It was basically them in Atlanta in the 70s, which is not like Atlanta in the 2000s. Like there were not a lot of Nigerian people. So it was us. We were close. We were taught to work hard. We were taught to go to school. My dad asked for my math and science homework every day, whether or not I had it. And if I didn't, he would give me workbooks. So there was a lot of the traditional get a good job and stay there forever and save. It wasn't much about buy assets, get your time back.
True, true. And I think that's reminiscent of a lot of individuals that grow up in America in general, right? And it's, hey, you've got to work your 9 to 5, try to get the best job you can, and you better enjoy those 2 days that you have off each week. And maybe we'll give you 2 weeks to go and relax and things of that nature and decompress. But we know that a lot of people in this group have come around to a different kind of mindset. And I know that you share that mindset, which is, hey, life is meant to be lived, not 80 hours, 90 hours every 2 weeks within a W-2. You've got to enjoy it along the way. So when did that mindset start to shift for you? And what was the impetus behind it? What started that shift?
Travel is the thing that I use to answer a lot of questions. And the short answer is the job that I had prior to real estate was I was in supply chain, I was an auditor. We had manufacturing facilities around the world. There was a headquarters in Switzerland in the Italian speaking region, and they have a really good idea of work-life balance. And they have a lot of vacation and it's beautiful. I had exposure to that. I had exposure to Southeast Asia. And I saw that there's a lot of world out there. There's a lot of stuff that I should be able to be at least exposed to while I'm young enough to do something about it. And I knew that I needed some way to pay for that lifestyle. Bringing it back to real estate, I had actually a Nigerian colleague as well, who told me about Bigger Pockets podcast. He wasn't an investor yet, but we talked about it enough. I listened to 3 months of podcasts. I got up to speed on the different markets, the different niches, and then I eventually started taking action.
That is amazing. And your story resembles similar to mine, right? Which was discovering that Bigger Pockets podcast, listening nonstop for a couple years, and then kind of taking action. But one of the things that a lot of people get stuck at is just that fear, right? That fear of making a mistake that fear of, hey, I'm going to lose everything that I've earned up to this point. How did you overcome that fear and take that first step? And what was that first step?
The first step, my first investment was a personal residence that I used my 401k. I took a loan against it when I was at that employer. But the first step towards thinking I can do anything I desire was there were a lot of books that were instrumental in that. I liked, so I thought Rich Dad Poor Dad was good. It didn't teach me how to do anything. I have personal thoughts now about the authorship of that. So 4 Hour Work Week was really good for me. The Richest Man in Babylon was very good. Profit First. There's a lot of traction, clockwork. These are the ones that I use to model the business that I'm building after. The EOS from Traction. Um, I get off tangent a little bit, but I think I answered how I started to think about what's possible.
Absolutely. And the books that you just mentioned, these all ring true to my heart. If I were to show you my bookshelf, I have a specific shelf where I put all the books that I like recommending to people, and literally 90% of the ones you just mentioned are sitting on that shelf. Richest Man in Babylon's one I read on a yearly basis at least, because it's
Mm-hmm.
so simple, yet it rings so true. 4 Hour Work Week is huge, Traction's huge.
Mm-hmm.
And so you mentioned to buy that first property that you took out a 401k loan. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
people don't know about this strategy. What did that entail? And don't you got to pay that back when you take out a loan?
Well, funny you say that. Yes, you do have to pay back under certain circumstances. You always have to pay it back. The way you pay it back varies. So, what I did was I used to work in finance, and during the onboarding, they taught us about saving in a 401k and an IRA, the value of compounding money. So, I always saved money, and I had, I don't know, maybe 60,000 in my 401k at that time. And I was told that I could take a loan against it up to 50% of the value, not to exceed $50,000. So generally, you're going to pay it back through a debit from your checking, from your salary every week or every 2 weeks. And there is some interest built in. That interest is paid back to you. In my case, I left the company before I had repaid it. So I did pay, I think I had like 10,000 remaining. So I paid the tax on that as if it were a distribution.
Nice. Nice. Okay. And you're moving right along to where kind of we were heading, right? You ended up leaving that company. So you were in a global supply chain company where you were able to travel the world, right? Get a lot of experience. But I know toward the end of your time there, it was starting to become a little bit of a burnout factor, and you decided to jump into the entrepreneurial space. Do you mind just talking through what was going through your mind during that time period and what gave you that push to make the jump fully?
Well, there's a lot of things, but love is the shortest answer. I was in a long distance relationship with my partner Katerina. She lived in New York City at the time. I was living in North Carolina. Our company was moving its headquarters from Greensboro to Denver the following year. And I could either go to Denver or we could figure out what living together is like here in the States. And then because we both wanted to travel more fully, we would then be able to do that as from that launch pad. So I went up there. I lived there for a couple years and we started a travel company together. We actually ran one trip in 2019 to Puerto Rico. It was a sustainable travel company, small group travel, and we were ready to do it again in 2020. We had partners for Honduras and northern Brazil, so we did the research trips and we were ready to do it again, but COVID delayed that and then obviously stopped it. And we tried to breathe life into it for a while. it's not the thing that was going to ever be a really big revenue generator. We closed it out last year. So that was one thing I did. My brother and I had a trucking company together. That was actually where I got the capital for the first property that I bought. When we sold our truck routes. I got a nice little chunk of change there.
Nice, nice. And there's two things I want to dive into there first before we talk about some of the travels that you had while still investing in the US. The first is the travel company. So I've seen a couple different agencies that do this and do it well. My brother actually took a trip with one of the companies. I think his friend runs one as well. And I've always been interested in what the numbers look like and also how do you even pull this thing together and the benefit for you as well as the travelers when you're doing this small group travel. What did that look like when you did that trip in 2019?
The margins depends on the model. So our model was one where we wanted to work with locally owned businesses. So the restaurants we went to, the transportation we used, the anything we did, if we could have it be locally owned, so the money would stay in the archipelago, we would. We did some gourmet experiences. So it was a premium priced product. We were able to pay for our trip essentially. On the first time, we we had plans to scale up to doing more trips more times per year and teaching someone else to do it. So taking ourselves out of the day to day, but it's very labor intensive to go to a new country, to meet the providers, to vet them, to give feedback. It's not something that, at least at this time, is for us.
That's fair. That is fair. And I know the next piece that kind of took place after that, when 2020 hit, is the world shutting down, right? 2020, we all had plans. You know, I wanted to go to Portugal and other places, and it ended up not happening. Still trying to go there. But I know that you actually took a different route. While the world was shutting down, you and your partner actually continued traveling and went to many, many locations while still working your investments in the US. Can you mention just a couple of the places that you've lived over the past 2 years before we jump into the investments?
Well, the first place that we lived abroad was Barbados, and we lived there for 9 months, starting October 2020. We came back to the States. We did a road trip up and down the East Coast. We spent the last quarter of the year in the Pacific Northwest, so Seattle, Vancouver, and Portland. We started this year in Portugal, or no, North Carolina. We spent a month there house sitting 4 cats. We went to Portugal for 2 months, and then we just got back from 3 months in Europe.
Nice, nice. And this whole time, I know I've talked to you about some of the investing and things of that nature. What have you been doing along the way to continue moving toward your goals of financial freedom and building up that income stream?
Well, I've done a lot of different things, and that's going to be one of the jewels that I'll leave your audience with at the end. I have flipped a couple properties. I've wholesaled now 3 properties this year. I've sourced deals with cold calling, with text messaging, with Facebook ads, with RVM. I've done private lending. I've done a refinance, a 1031 exchange. I've got a couple rentals. So very disparate things in different markets. And I haven't gotten the level of success or the outward show of, well, really that magic number. I haven't gotten that yet. So I'm now focused more on a single market, wholesaling first, reducing my cycle time, making sure that the number of offers that are being sent out is where it needs to be and that our ads are running. So I'm actually even hiring for a junior acquisition manager. So I'll give you the details at the end here.
Absolutely. And you just ran through about 8 different strategies that you've been executing on. And I want to dive into a couple of them. Now you
Sure.
mentioned that wholesale is the one that you're looking to niche down into and focus on, but you did a couple flips from abroad. Where were those flips and how did you manage that?
One flip was in Kingston, New York, and the other is in Euclid, Ohio, so a Cleveland suburb. I was in Barbados for the Kingston one, and I was in North Carolina and in Portugal for the Euclid one. And I was able to manage both of these. And every project that I do, because I'm virtual, it's because of team. The people that are on the ground that are my eyes and ears. And I have taken trips to Cleveland, so I do know some of the players in the market. Kingston's not a place I've ever been. So Facebook groups were really huge on me meeting people in those markets that are doing the business, that have a good reputation. And I do everything like a trial. Each thing is a project, and we can see if we would want to work together again. I have gotten into partnerships prematurely, and fortunately, we were still able to make some money, but you don't want to spend time throwing good money after bad. You want the right person in the right seat. So I'm being real deliberate now and real focused. And anyone who wants on the bus, I'm happy to collaborate with them.
Absolutely. And you talk about the importance of team, and I can't preach that enough. Even when you live in the same market, you have to have a strong team if you want to grow, right? And continue to get bigger and bigger. And there's an old African proverb, right, that says if you want to travel quickly, you travel alone, but if you want to go far, you have to go together. And I
Mm-hmm.
truly believe in that, and I think you do as well. And so when you talk about your team, let's go to this specific market. Let's talk about Kingston, right? Who were the main players in that team? I'm guessing you had some contractors, maybe a realtor, maybe other players involved, but who were some of the people that made up the team to make that a successful project?
The four that I interacted with, the main one that I interacted with is my project manager. I met him in a Facebook group. He's someone that I respect, that I would still do deals with again. I had a contractor that I also met in a Facebook group, and I checked his referrals. They were good. And I had a lender, obviously, to fund the project, and I had the title company. So that's no, and this was New York, so I used my attorney. So those are the people that I interacted with on a daily or on a regular basis. Depending on what they do, I would talk to them more or less. The project manager, we'd have a weekly meeting. We would talk about the finances, we would talk about the timeline and the budget. That those are the things that I care about. What are we doing to make sure that we get back on schedule or on budget?
I love it. I love it. I like having the weekly call, right? That check-in that's on the calendar. You know you're going to meet during this time. And with that project manager, was this somebody that was completely separate, like not known to the contractor, so they had your best interest in mind, or were they kind of tied to that contractor as well?
I did not mention that this project manager is also a realtor. So he
Mm,
got the listing on the back end. So that was his incentive. That was his compensation. I didn't even have to pay him a project management fee. So it's very nice. And
nice.
I think they knew of one another from the Facebook group, but I don't know that they had worked together before.
That's actually a major tip right there, right? Because I've paid for project management and it can cost anywhere from 7 to 20% of the cost of the project to have somebody oversee that and really be your eyes and ears. But if you're
Mhm.
able to align somebody's interest, i.e., the realtor, and say, hey, you're going to get the listing on the back end and we can already work out the numbers and it makes sense. I think that's a great way to make sure somebody's watching out for your interest while you're abroad.
I like to partner up with people, even if I don't have a formal partnership. I like to be on the same side of the market or of whatever the foe that we have. So when I'm talking to homeowners, I want to get on the same side, and the market's the bad guy. I want to partner up with them. If I'm using creative finance, I'm literally partnering with them. And every time I have the right partnership, my load gets less and everyone gets paid. So I partner all 2022 and beyond.
Come on now. Nothing wrong with that. And I know you mentioned it a little bit earlier, right? But you're looking to focus and niche down into the wholesaling market. But before you started getting into the niches, and we're going to talk about the wholesaling, I know you suffered from an affliction that many of us do, right? The shiny object syndrome, where
Yeah.
you start working on one thing and you're like, man, this sounds like a cool strategy. Let me go try that out. Do you have any stories or any kind of lessons from getting over that affliction to focus on the wholesaling piece?
Well, I still have it, but I try not to listen to it ever. I'm able to realize when I'm talking a lot about something that I don't know about, and I say words like easy or fast, then I know that it's a shiny object. And then I just say, well, I have to say no to it. One early on, there were two things that I thought were going to be my home run, and I was going to be able to retire. I was going to be a millionaire. There were two deals that were over $1 million, and they were in things that I don't know a whole lot about. And one of them would have likely gotten me bankrupt because it was a boutique hotel that I have a business plan for both of these. This was called the Victoria House. It had local artists. It was in Beacon, New York. So they were going to furnish everything. It was going to be great. And I didn't even have this property under contract. So I said, I can make this happen. I can raise $1 million for the purchase and $2 million for the rehab. And people are going to ride with me for 2 years before they get paid. And that was just it's not realistic. So I'm glad that they did not accept my offer because, again, I think it'd be bad for me. And there's a lot of things that I think are going to be very easy, but the metaphor that I use is it's like starting a fire with a magnifying glass. You have to focus on one area, that one piece of that tinder for it to get hot, and you have to focus longer for there to be some smoke, and you have to focus longer for it to catch fire. And every time you move that magnifying glass to a different piece of tinder, you're making that part warm, but that other place isn't staying hot. And if you focus, then you can do anything over time because you have a fire that's already going. And I've realized that. I've had a lot of talks with Katerina as my consultant as well, my life partner, and she's sat me down a couple times, and it's very helpful to have a third person or a third party tell me what they're seeing.
Love it. Love it. And to your point, you do have to have that focus, especially when you're getting started. And I run into so many newer investors or aspiring investors where, hey, I just want to have a deal. So whether
Mhm.
that's I want to go try a house flip, and then the next week, hey, let's go look for a house hack. And then it's like, hey, let's go for a short term. It's like, hey, you gotta focus on one strategy and
Mhm.
work on that strategy and try to become an expert, put in your 10,000 hours, and then that will give you kind of the keys to building the next one and the next one. Like for me personally, I started off investing in small multifamily in 2016 in Louisville, Kentucky.
Mhm.
And I was so focused on the small multifamily that for the first 5 years of my investing career, that's all I bought. And I literally bought it all within 1 mile of each other in Louisville, Kentucky. If you walk down the street, it's like, all
Pretty
right, there goes
good.
Need, there goes Need. It's like right, because I was focused and I knew that block. And so if you can focus in on a strategy and just block out all the noise, it's going to allow you to become an expert. And then you're able to move into other different niches and expand upon because you've learned the one strategy and kind of move on to the next.
Yeah, it's the becoming an expert, it's creating the system, it's delegating it to someone else who's responsible for the outcomes. All of that can only happen if you know the thing inside and outside.
If you had to give advice to some of the younger or newer investors that are joined on the call and are going to listen later, what would be that advice or action item for them to be successful in their investing career?
Okay, well, I don't know what each person is after, so I'll talk more generically. whatever your goal is, if you think 90 days into the future, what milestones do you have to hit in order to actually make that thing happen? So I want for people to immerse themselves in the thing that they say that they're interested in, learn from people that are in the business, learn from the internet, learn from actual books, and then you will be confident. You're never going to be confident until you've done it several times, but then the next deal that's different, it's just going to be different. So you'll be more resilient if you are well versed in it and you surround yourself with a community. So this mastermind is a great example of something that gives people confidence to actually take the action when they see that the downside risk really isn't that bad for most things. I would also tell you to block out all distractions. The thing that I did when I first tried to start wholesaling that helped me to actually get a couple of deals is I stopped listening to bigger pockets. I listen only to Wholesaling Inc., Max Maxwell's podcast, people that are doing the thing that I want to be doing. And that was very helpful for me to learn how to actually overcome objections, how to be able to negotiate with homeowners. And just commit to it for that 90 days, do the action every day, be consistent, and it'll multiply. And you won't see it's like working out. You don't see results the first week, month, but then it starts to compound on itself.
Absolutely. Well said. And I have one more question for you before opening it up to the group for
Sure.
any questions that they have for Remi. And that's, how can this group help you? I know that you had a couple goals for this year as well as heading into next year. And you mentioned that you're even looking to hire a junior acquisitions person. But can you tell us a little bit more about that and then other goals that this group and listeners can help you with?
Sure. So the junior acquisition manager role is I'm at a point where I have a lot of leads and I'm not able to follow up with everyone in the time frame that I need to. I'm not able to be consistent and market and do disposition and everything. So I need someone who I use Facebook ads. So very quickly, a lead comes in, this person will text the number back. They'll ask them for the property address. They'll get them on the phone. They'll run through a series of questions to pre-qualify that homeowner, and then they'll sort them into hot lead, warm lead, or retail lead. The warm leads that are not yet ready to sign a contract, they'll follow up with them on a regular basis based on the type of lead they are. And over time, I'd like for that person to be able to negotiate, to be able to actually send contracts, and they would get more money over time. They would be invested in it. It's a partnership, like I said. So that's the role that I'm hiring for. And what was the other question?
Any other goals that you're working toward that this group or the listeners can help with?
Yeah. As I mentioned, I'm moving into Ohio, and there are 7 metro markets that I'm interested in. So anyone who knows anyone who invests in Ohio, essentially, I would like to connect with them if they are an investor themselves, if they know a contractor, rock stars only. I don't just want to talk to people. I want to talk to people that they would recommend and grow together with them.
Done and done. I actually have somebody in mind. I'm going to connect you with him either tonight or early tomorrow. Ohio. I got you on Ohio. But I want to open it up to the group. We have a little over 5 minutes left. And really quick, before doing that, Remi, we truly appreciate you joining us, man. Thank you. I know you got to be jet lagged traveling all over the place, just coming into town, but we appreciate it. And I know this is going to help a lot of people, and there's going to be a lot of people reaching out to you to kind of ask questions. But for those on the line, feel free to unmute and ask Remi any questions you have on what we just went over.
Yo, what's up, Nee?
How you feeling?
Um, I'm feeling good, man. I'm driving right now, so I'm not on the video. But yeah, man, Remy, thanks for that. That was super dope. Dropped a lot of really good nuggets. I was following along with a lot of the stuff you said. I'm doing the same thing myself, just on a smaller scale. I've got the 401k loan set up right now. And that's how I'm in my current house hack. Need helped me get that. That was a great process.
Good
And,
stuff.
just, yeah, trying to just dig into the house hacking niche right now. I just wanted to ask a light question of what's been your favorite place that you've traveled to, in all the places that you've gone.
That's a hard question to answer because it depends on how you're asking it. I don't really count it, somewhere around 50 countries. And there's a lot of
Wow.
places that I like, and I like for different reasons. Portugal is dope. Italy, Katarina's going to buy a place there, so we'll spend more time there. Vietnam is great. Thailand is great. Mexico is one of my favorite places ever. Amsterdam, I love.
But so
There's a
there's
lot of
not
places.
one where you're like, this is the one. Like, there's no other country on the map that exists. This country needs to exist. Is there one like that you got?
I don't. Those
Not
questions,
really.
I don't. Those questions don't work for me because I can't.
Okay.
It's not the case. There's always more. There's
Okay.
infinite amount of experiences, and I don't want to be limited to Atlanta where I grew up only.
But there's
Gotcha.
nothing wrong with
Good answer.
Atlanta. But no, no, I'm with you. I'm with you. That's fair. That's fair, man. And
Yeah.
of those that you just mentioned, Portugal's on the list. I was supposed to go there in 2020. Still have not made it. But Amsterdam, love Amsterdam as well, man. Amsterdam and just Spain in general. So Barcelona was dope. Yeah, Remy, I definitely need to get some tips on places to visit in some of these countries.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll catch up on that piece. But any other questions for Remy?
I got a question. First, thank you for having me, and thank you, Remy, for taking the time out to speak with all of us. I'm literally a novice to all of this, but I had a question because I was looking at real estate investing, and I'm also in the process of getting my real estate license literally as we speak. I'm actually doing homework for that class now. But I've been looking at hard money loans for investing in real estate, and I heard you say something about like 401k and how I caught the back end of it, but it sounded like you leveraged your 401k to get a home. Could you get a little more granular with what that looked like? I may have missed it, but if you don't mind.
Sure. I used the 401k loan to purchase a primary residence, and that's the only thing that I think is permissible for this particular repayment. I think there are loans that you can do that this would be from an IRA. I think you can just take a loan from it, but you can't use it for the 401k loan. You can't use it for an investment property. Is that the question that you have, or is there more?
Yeah.
I could speak to that a little bit too. Sorry, I was just going to say, because I have the 401k loan right now, and I think that might depend on your 401k servicer, because I know I have Fidelity, and they give me a few options where if it's for a primary residence, your loan period is different. So you have the option of taking 15 years. And I think the interest rate might be a point or two lower as well. But you also have the option of just taking any type of loan, so just a general loan, but your repayment period is only 5 years, and yeah, your rate might be a little higher. But again, I think that might depend on who your 401k is like provided through.
That sounds about right, iPhone.
Yeah, it's Desmond, by the way. Sorry, I don't have my name on the label.
No, yeah, I did this in 2017, so I remember what I remember, but it's not something that I have used again since then. I do remember there being different options, and 15 years means your payment's like a couple $100 from your paycheck. So it's really powerful.
And David, on the other part of that question around the hard money, yes, you can use hard money, right, to purchase an investment property. It's typically used to buy something that's so beat up that the bank won't normally finance it. And you'd use that for either the BRRRR strategy, where you're going to rehab it, rent it, and refinance and get your money back out, or you would use that to actually flip a house. The thing with hard money is it's way more expensive than people think, because you do have to put a down payment still, and you do have to pay exorbitant interest and points. But it's good if you're looking to a flip and you're only going to use it short term. You would not want to use hard money for a buy and hold. It needs to be something where you're adding value and you're going to get that money back out.
Gotcha. Thank you, guys.